Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Hey, I think it's a good time for a Friday, isn't it? We could use a Friday around here, and we got one. It's 5:07, 12th day of September, as we wrap up a heart-wrenching week here in your nation's capital and really all around the world. But we're in this together, and let's stick together as we continue to plow through the news. The latest on last night's FBI briefing. More details, more security footage showing the suspected assassin of Charlie Kirk, leaping from the rooftop of his perch. Also more evidence, including palm prints, footprints, better description of his clothing. But still, the suspect is at large. We're going to break down this story and some other items in the news throughout the morning, starting at 6:35 with Jay Christian Adams. 7:05, Mark Hemingway wrote a really important piece at The Federalist about how the political left in this country, has never actually had to pay a price for stoking the violence that they have stoked with their rhetoric. A really important conversation will be had then. It's 7:35. Macy Gunnell, that's the chapter leader of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization. At 8:05, Representative Randy Fine. And then at 8:35, we're going to have a conversation with the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin. So a very busy day. Glad you're here with us. Glad Patrice Onwuka is here. Haven't actually spoken to you, Patrice, since I got back from vacation. Missed you. Good to talk with you. And
good to see you too, Larry.
I don't know if I'm in the mood to celebrate a Friday. There's nothing to yay about right now.
Here's what makes Friday and Friday still good is that we are still enjoying the grace of God this morning. And it's a heavy week, no doubt. And yesterday, my heart was so heavy between Charlie Kirk's death and remembering 24 years since 9/11.
Yeah.
It just felt like such darkness sitting on our hearts. But God's grace is still there. And so that's what makes today for me still a Friday, although I might not say Friday as much as I usually do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah. And also, by the way, late yesterday afternoon, and we'll give you some updates on this crazy, unbelievable story out of the United States Naval Academy, where the entire base was put on lockdown and all midshipmen were to shelter in place. As many people know, we, Meredith and I, are connected with the Naval Academy as sponsor parents. We know many midshipmen through Meredith's church ministry, as well as through our own sponsorship of midshipmen. We contacted all of them immediately. Thank goodness they were all safe and sheltered in place in various areas. It took us a while to get the information out. There was a shot fired. A midshipman was injured due to a gunshot wound, but the story is not exactly what everybody potentially thought or had reported.
Feared.
It was fear. It was a mistaken identity. It was. Okay. We'll give you all those details. We have the breakdown of what actually did happen. Two individuals were injured, one by gunshot wound, and that was a midshipman. And we'll break that down as the morning develops as well. But I mean, when that story came in around 5:45, and our heart is with the Naval Academy and all those great midshipmen, I was just, Meredith and I just looked at each other as a kid. We're done. My God, just exhausted through all of this. But we're gonna continue to plow through here. That's what we do, and we'll keep a smile on our face as much as possible. Let's give you the latest, though, on this, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There was a press conference last night in the 10 o'clock hour. Eastern Time. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, the FBI director and the deputy director, both in attendance. They have both left Washington, D.C. to oversee the investigation in Utah. They've released a new video, a security video footage from the parking lot behind the building where the assassin was perched. It shows the individual running across the roof, dropping their backpack to the ground, and then grabbing the gutter or the siding of the building, the roof, and lowering themselves down to sort of a ridge where there's a row of windows. And then at that point, they drop. I want to say it's about a 10-foot drop, maybe a 12-foot drop.
It's a little more, yeah.
maybe a little more. And they drop down, pick up their backpack, and then continue walking eventually out of that parking lot toward that wooded area where the FBI, they used this video to trace their steps, and that's where they found the gun that had been left in the woods. They released a picture of that gun yesterday. It is a bolt-action rifle, which, by the way, if I can pause here for a moment, because you heard Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other people trying to use the gun issue and the Second Amendment issue, number one, as some sort of political weapon or political tool to try to maximize some sort of new narrative out of this event. Oh, if you're so upset about the death of Charlie Kirk, join us for gun control. And I just tell you, as I've been covering gun control debates in this country for decades, not once has any advocate for gun control have ever proposed a legislation or a regulation of any sort that would have made a gun like this unavailable to any law-abiding citizen. It is the most benign type of... I mean, oftentimes you hear people saying, oh, we just want assault weapons. We want, sometimes they used to want to ban handguns as well. But we don't want to take a gun away from you that you can go hunting with, right? They always show Tim Walz and John Kerry and all these people dressed up like Elmer Fudd out there hunting because, we're not going to take hunter's gun. Well, this is a hunter's gun. But stop. So anybody who's trying to use gun control as a rationale to change the subject from political rhetoric and political violence that has put a target on people, literally like they did to Charlie Kirk, or even worse, for people who somehow gleefully can't hide their joy that Charlie Kirk has been killed, because they're trying to use it as some sort of I told you so. Well, he did advocate the Second Amendment, so, what's your complaint? This is what happens. These people are gross, they're despicable, and they're frauds. All right, this is not the kind of gun they ever. The only person who has proposed anything with regard to gun control that would have prevented this assassin from acquiring this weapon are the people who advocate for total confiscation of every gun in America and rescinding the Second Amendment. And by the way, I have more respect for people who say that out loud because at least that's really a goal. Yeah, because that really is the goal of all of them. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to push
go off there, but the gun triggered me, if I may say.
There you go. Let's pull you back, Larry. We'll provide some more details here. So police have released some more details into the shooting investigation. I don't believe at this point they have anyone in custody. As you mentioned, They do have the images of this young man. His face is so visible. And other than, he's wearing a pair of dark sunglasses and a hat, but someone could easily recognize him if they know this young man. Something like 200 tips have already come in from members of the public. And yesterday, the FBI announced on X a $100,000 reward, quote, for information leading to the identification and arrest of individuals responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk. I think the interesting point about individuals is that this young man may not have acted alone. Whether it was we've seen some images of people celebrating when Charlie Kirk was immediately celebrating and turning around to a camera when Charlie Kirk was murdered and slain. Maybe there are other people who are involved with this, and so I'm hopeful that some of the tips will bear fruit, and I'm hopeful that something that seeing that the FBI director and deputy director going out to Utah to help support the Utah law enforcement there and the police, because perhaps they are just overwhelmed with this investigation, that something will break sooner rather than later.
Yeah, thank you for that, Patrice, and a little bit more on the update on the suspect, what we know about him from the images and from his actions, and a little bit more about the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk coming up in a moment. First, though, it's 5:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news, live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
The assassin, or the person of interest that they're looking for, I guess is the appropriate legal term here, was wearing a long-sleeve black T-shirt with an American flag logo. Looks like he's got a eagle on it as well. A black baseball-style cap with a triangle logo. Black, sort of wraparound-style Ray-Ban sunglasses, blue jeans, Converse tennis shoes with white as the predominant color on the tennis shoes. Based on that video that shows him dropping off of the rooftop, they were able to retrieve a foot impression where he landed in the grass, a palm print and forearm imprints, but they have not been able to get any fingerprints on any of the items that they've recovered. Excuse me. That's all we know so far at this time.
Mm-hmm. I'll just jump in and say,
I'm sorry, I'm having a sneezing attack here.
Oh, God bless you. God bless you. What I've been frustrated with, Larry, and, this is frustrating in how the news is covering some of this reporting. The photos of the weapon and details about the firearm and ammunitions, includes inscriptions and symbols. This is what the Department of the FBI has put out. However, the inscriptions have been they've been described by the media as political or cultural.
Cultural, yeah.
As cultural. And they never explain what the cultural messages are, because I think they're trying to cover up what the potential motive of this massacre could have been.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Steven Crowder, who is a podcaster, and he's got a team of independent investigators who are pretty well sourced. His team was able to get the manifesto of the transgender Christian school killer in Nashville before authorities wanted to release it, and showed all of the details about the hatred against Christians and people who are opposed to transgender activists. So he's got a pretty good track record of getting stuff like this. He received a tip from ATF that said that the bullets in question here that were recovered were inscribed with what they described as pro-trans and anti-fascist slogans. Anti-fascist also is another term for Antifa, which is the violent left-wing mob that shows up and wreaks havoc in our streets. That report then was verified and corroborated by the Wall Street Journal within an hour of Steven Crowder's team. After that, the other mentions of anything inscribed on bullets, as you said, did not specifically say Antifa or pro-trans, but instead just said cultural or political messages and left it at that. So we're sort of left wanting. And I do want to say, as we were sort of piecing this together yesterday for my streaming show I do for Town Hall at noon, we reached out to people close to the investigation to verify some of this as well, and we were told, that's still developing. We could not get anyone on our investigative team at Town Hall to verify the content of those messages. They wouldn't say one way or the other. Now, that doesn't mean the Wall Street Journal and Steven Crowder's reporting is not true. We were just told, that it's developing, and we're not going to go ahead and verify that right now. So there is a reason that even those closest to the investigation are not confirming that, although they did off the record to the Wall Street Journal. So who knows? Who knows what's at foot there? Who knows?
Well, I would just say that if the messages scrawled were something like I hate blacks or something
MAGA.
along those lines, I'm pretty sure that media outlets would be more than willing to run with that story, even if they couldn't potentially verify it. So I mean, there's just a little bit of bias here in some of the different reporting. I'm going to say it's bias. Maybe it's not. But
you are entitled to reach that conclusion. I think that one would be perfectly reasonable in reaching that conclusion based on how we've seen journalism warped over the years in our society. There's also some other additional video footage that is incredibly curious. It's in the neighborhood about a quarter of a mile from the campus, and it shows this person of interest prior to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, where he is walking through this neighborhood to get to his location. He's dressed in the same clothes with the backpack, just strolling down the street, but he has a pronounced limp as he walks. And of course, there's tons of speculation about what that means exactly. And some people suggest that perhaps he was concealing his long gun down his pant leg as he walked. We no way of knowing for sure, but there is definitely a pronounced limp that is not discernible as he jumps off of the roof after the assassination. That's the latest on this manhunt. Like I said, Patel and Bongino on the ground in Utah. Again, I'm guessing just to lend a visible sign of the importance of this investigation to the highest levels of the administration. Also, the disposition of Charlie Kirk's remains were handled yesterday with dignity and respect, with none other than the vice president and his wife escorting the casket containing Charlie's remains onto the president's official plane, and then they were flown back down to his home state of Arizona, where now funeral plans are being arranged. And the images of the vice president walking with the honor guard carrying his casket onto the plane, and then the image of Charlie Kirk's now very young widow, Erica, walking hand in hand with Usha Vance off of the airplane will, just another thing to sort of tear at your heartstrings as we see the grief and the resolve all at once by the leaders of our nation trying to make sense of this and get to the bottom of it and find justice. We'll give you more details as the morning develops. Please don't go anywhere. It's 5:23.
All right, coming up, we're going to break down what happened yesterday at the Naval Academy. There were shots fired, police response. Unfortunately, we had midshipmen injured, but no fatalities. So we'll break down everything that happened and more. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37 now. Thanks for tuning in this 12th day of September as we continue to put together the pieces and deliver everything that we've got for you on the news of the week, including, of course, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Joining us at 6:35, J. Christian Adams. It's 7:05, Mark Hemingway. 7:35, Macy Gunnell from Turning Point. Macy's a chapter leader for Turning Point USA. 8:05, Representative Randy Fine of Florida. And then at 8:35, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. So we're all loaded up. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning, Larry.
So as we mentioned earlier, yesterday afternoon, just around 5:30 in the afternoon, I want to say, Meredith and I started getting text messages from some of the midshipmen at the Naval Academy that we sponsor and whose lives we're involved with as sort of sponsors in Annapolis sort of help the midshipmen when they need something because they're away from home and, they're at college and they need a warm bed on the weekend sometimes when they get liberty, things like that. And they were alerting us that there was an active shooter situation and full base lockdown at the Naval Academy.
Boy.
And make no mistake, the Naval Academy is not a college campus. It is a active military base.
Yes, that's right.
And we were getting multiple reports at the time. Now, we definitely had one of the midshipmen said, oh, yeah, a shot was definitely fired. We heard a shot. And there were reports that, and let me actually cut to the chase here. Spoiler alert. There was no intrusion on the Naval Academy grounds.
Okay.
And there was not a menacing shooter who was trying to kill people or trying to terrorize people. There were rumors to such effect. And this is an amazing story. That sort of shows what can happen. Even, let's face it, the Naval Academy midshipmen are pretty squared away individuals as teenagers and 20-year-olds go.
Yeah.
But also this sort of speaks to the fact that we are all wound pretty tight right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And by the way, especially young men and women of that generation. I want to talk about this later. I got a message from a friend of mine from high school whose children are in college right now, and her sons are so affected by the murder of Charlie Kirk. They're conservative. They're on a college campus. And they are afraid that they will be harmed if they speak out like Charlie Kirk is. They're afraid that they will be harmed because they are known around campus because they've been politically active. And now they're afraid that they are going to be the target of a murder. And by the way, that's a reasonable conclusion to reach.
Yeah.
If you're a young man or young woman and you openly celebrated Charlie Kirk, given the climate that we're in right now. And I don't think we're taking that fully into account. Right, let's get back to this story at the Naval Academy. All these things are flying around. We don't know what's going on. And, we actually, have you heard, is there a gunshot? Yes, we heard a gunshot. Okay, so it is an active shooter situation. Well, not really. Here's what, and then there were rumors that there was a midshipman who had been separated. They start out, every class starts out with 1,100 mids. And but my daughter's graduating class ended up being about 985. So many people end up leaving on their own, or sometimes they fall out. They don't quite make the cut. Oftentimes, for these young men and women, when they are separated against their will and they're expelled from the Naval Academy, they suffer depression. They suffer a huge level of trauma because of this, because their whole lives have been wrapped up in this, and the process of becoming a midshipman and going through plebe summer, and it can be traumatic for them. And there have been incidents where young men and women who have been separated from the Naval Academy sort of act out and such. What happened was there was a midshipman who had been separated, and he had left his laptop back at Bancroft Hall. He didn't take it with him. It's not his property, so he left it. Someone, and we don't know who, accessed that laptop and started sending threatening messages as if they were that person. And this person, this young man, was home. They had a visual identification. He was with his parents in the Midwest. So it wasn't him, but somebody did that. They don't know who. They're going to try to investigate and figure that out. And also there's a social media app that midshipmen use called Yodel. It's an anonymous social media app, and it's a app that the mids use to sort of share information and sort of complain about their teachers and things like that. That's anonymous, and there were threats made there. One of the threats that was made, or one of the reported, then things started to take off like wildfire, and other people were saying things on Yodel, claiming that this midshipman had come back onto base dressed as military police with a firearm, and they were going door to door in Bancroft. All right. That's what everyone said. Be alert. This guy has a gun, and he's going door to door at Bancroft. So at the same time, the military police were in fact going door to door at Bancroft, trying to evacuate midshipmen from their dorm rooms and get them to a safe place. The MP knocked on one door. The midshipman did not want to let them in because he thought that it could be this potential alleged assailant. When the MP opened the door, there was a struggle. The midshipman used his rifle, his ceremonial rifle that they use in their parades. Yes. And used it as a blunt force object to fight against this military police officer. And the military police officer discharged his weapon and shot the midshipman. And that's why there was a medevac. It was a complete and total
case of
misunderstanding, misinformation.
Misidentified individual.
Yes. In a climate where people are on edge and people are on their guard, and they have just seen, these are all 19, 20, 21-year-old young men who just saw Charlie Kirk murdered in cold blood. This also, by the way, is on September 11th, where the Naval Academy conducts several ceremonial tributes to those fallen in 9/11 and in the global war on terror. So that's the entire story of what happened. And we didn't get the full details until about 8 p.m. You can imagine our evening was consumed with this as well. So, I mean, just what a crazy story.
It's a crazy story. I mean, Larry, but this is not the only tense situation. I saw it yesterday, and I was reading about it this morning. Several historically black colleges and universities also received threats, including 2 Virginia schools. Apparently, the threats were supposed to be from a MAGA influencer. So to me, that sounds like a hoax, someone trying to capitalize off of Charlie Kirk's murder to then scare students at black schools. And then I guess there was also on Thursday a bomb threat at the Democratic National Committee headquarters, not deemed credible. But
and that was also
this is the exactly. I think this is you're going to see this, folks, which is people who have, whether it's nefarious or they're just trying to be funny motives, will take advantage of the tenseness and the anxiety and the fear in our environment right now to rile people up even more. And so, it's important that we figure out and have trusted sources to help us figure out the fact versus the fiction, because what the Yodel app and the messages understandably are flying around, but it becomes a case of telephone where what one person says, it balloons into something that's totally different. And if you're reading the last message, not the first one, and you're not getting any other information from other credible sources that you trust, then you're going to believe that. And unfortunately, what happened at the Naval Academy could happen in other scenarios too.
Yeah, you're right. As to borrow a phrase from the great television series Hill Street Blues, stay frosty out there, my friends. Stay frosty.
Later this morning on the Chris Plante Show, the assassination of Charlie Kirk opens a wound in American political discourse as the Democrats attack Trump. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
Lost in all of the news this week was some pretty great economic information with regard to the producer price index. Inflation surprised everybody by staying not just steady, but dropped in many respects. And then we had that outrageous revision of jobs numbers during the final year of the Biden administration to the tune of nearly 1 million jobs that were overstated. Patrice, what's going on with our economy?
Yeah, so I think it's sending us some mixed signals, some of which are good, which is, things like, as you mentioned, the producer price index, or that's the inflation that sellers and producers receive, and we saw that was pretty tame this month, in fact falling a little bit, or more measured, which should in a month or two probably feed into the prices that we pay as consumers at the grocery store. We did see the consumer in price inflation index yesterday rise to 2.9%, so still ticking back up again,
which by the way is a complete reversal of what they predicted because of tariffs. They thought that the PPI thought
it would have been much higher, much faster.
It actually went down 4 points compared to what they expected.
So
not 4 points,
when it comes to
4 tenths of a
percentage, So I think what's important here from a tariff perspective is that someone is eating the cost of tariffs, and it's very much likely those who either the sending countries or some of the producers higher up in the chain, but they're not necessarily feeding into the prices we pay at the grocery store. Also important, gas prices continue to drop. Gasoline prices continue to fall, which is great at the pump. And this is really important for the housing market, Larry. Mortgage rates are falling. So this week they fell to 6.35%. This is the largest weekly drop in an entire year. I don't know about you, but I've seen a couple of for sale signs pop up in my neighborhood, and those houses, they left the market very quickly. And so I think as the mortgage rates continue to go down, as inflation is tamed, and we're seeing, unfortunately, a much tighter jobs market than we anticipated or knew because the data was flawed. I think that gives the Federal Reserve not just the question of whether they're going to cut rates next week. They will cut rates next week. I just think it shouldn't be a 0.25 percentage point interest rate cut. It should be probably a 0.5 percentage point. Although we know the Fed and Jerome Powell, they're very reserved. I'll put it that way. And so they're likely maybe just to cut the federal funds rate by a 0.25 percentage point, not a half.
All right. Well, you heard it here, and if it doesn't happen, you can blame Patrice. Is that how this works?
That's how it works.
Also, just real fast on this, we need to get a handle on these jobs numbers and the fact that we need accurate figures. And this is the second year in a row that they've had. So I saw Steve Moore put together.
Last year it was over 800,000,
Right. Steve Moore put together a graph that showed between last year's annual number, this year's annual number, and then the monthly revisions, they've overstated nearly 3 million jobs. How does this happen?
Well, this is exactly why President Trump was right to fire the head of the BLS, and we have a nominee in E.J. Antoni, a great friend of our show, but he needs to figure out how to change the methodology so that you're getting better data. I mean, apparently a lot of businesses are not responding to the BLS when it comes to how many jobs they're creating. So obviously don't keep doing the same thing over and over again if it's failing. You've got to figure out a new way to do it. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have really bad data and policymakers like the president, like the Federal Reserve, making decisions based on bad data.
It's 5:53.